everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rudy Fenter and I'm a landscape photographer from South Africa. Busy at the moment with a series on the Karoo region of South Africa, which is quite an arid semi-desert region. This morning I was hoping to catch a nice sunrise with some trees in the front. Now the sunrise doesn't look that impressive at the moment. We do have a few clouds about, but I think something is obscuring the sun on the horizon or just below the horizon, so I'm not getting the color. But I'm here at a tree that I've shot before, but conditions weren't ideal. There are lots of shepherd's trees around here, and it's actually, they're all beautiful twisted shapes. So I was hoping this morning to shoot this one, but if it doesn't work out or it's not exactly what I want, I do want to scout around a bit as well. I know there's some color in some of the trees still around here. We are just past mid summer, but some of the trees are still blooming, so maybe I can do something with that, specifically for a cloudy day, maybe when the light is very soft. Thanks for watching, and let's see what the day produces. We are now getting a bit of light in the sky, a few interesting clouds, so I'm going for the wide angle shot. I'm almost underneath a little tree, 17 millimeters, and I'm shooting at f16 just to try and make sure that I've got everything in focus. I can actually drop that a bit to f14 because this is a wide angle lens. 1/8 of a second, f14, ISO 100, and then I will just exposure compensate. I'll do a -1, which is then roughly 1/20th, 15th to 20th of a second, and I'll do a +1, which is 1/5 of a second, +2, try and get the foreground sorted out. We're now sitting at 1/2 a second, and last but not least I'll do a three stop overexposure, 1 second, f14. Here we have the image as shot. What I like about the image is the bit of color on the horizon as the sun is just starting to appear. Also the color in the few clouds around. And the foreground is also quite nice with the roots exposed on the ground. What I do not like about it is the clutter in the bottom left hand corner. There's a bush very close to the camera and I don't like that. What is also pretty nice is the V formed by the tree, and specifically the branch that goes out towards the top right hand corner. I think that adds a bit of character. You'll see here in the process version, I cropped the image a bit to remove the bottom left hand corner. It also helps a bit with the composition. I think I added a bit of vibrance, lifted the shadows, so to specifically get more detail on the bark of the tree in the foreground. Overall, I'm quite happy with the image. Maybe not portfolio grade, but I think for the environment where it was captured, plus the light that wasn't quite as spectacular, it is quite okay. And I'll probably revisit this tree in the future. It's got a lot of potential. I found another composition that I quite like. Quite dry, weathered desert bush, with a bit of a rocky outcrop in front leading up to it, and then still some nice color in the sky. Shooting this at 17 millimeters, 1/15th of a second, f16. And to ensure that I get as much detail as possible in the foreground, I'm going to be doing a +1 stop, 1/8 of a second f16, and I'll do a +2 stops as well, which is then 1/4 of a second f16 ISO 100. And then ultimately, just to ensure I capture as much detail as possible in the bush, there's even a tiny bit of color in it, I'll do a 3-stop overexposure. Here we have the combination of the raw files out of camera. I just merged them in Lightroom. What I like about this image is I love the leading line that the rock formation forms leading towards a little bushy tree, and then the bushy tree that bends over towards the right that leads your eye back into the frame. And of course the clouds behind the bush also form a bit of a V from the top right and the top left corner that kind of also leads the eye back towards the bush. As you'll see in the process version, I had to lift the shadows a bit. Not that much, but I had to lift it, and also added a bit of vibrance to the sky, because the raw file, being a combined and merged file, is exceptionally flat. But I like this image overall. I think the bush is a bit cluttered, it's a bit too much going on there, but otherwise I like the image quite a lot. And I think maybe I need to see if I can reuse that rock formation in the future. I'm not sure how that bush is going to look in autumn and winter, but I'll return to it and have a look at it. I quite like this composition. There's a clump of with these tiny little trees with a cactus in front, and the cloud still has some color in it. So I'm focusing in the front on the cactus, shooting at f16, and because I'm at 17 millimeters, I think everything will be in focus. I'm shooting a normal exposure, and I'll do a -1 just to make sure I capture all the details in the clouds, because the sun is now just about breaking through. Also do a -2, 1/50th of a second f16 ISO 100. And then to get the detail in the bush or in the little tree, I'll do a +1 and maybe a +2 exposure, stop overexposed as well. There we have the +2. I think overall this is actually quite a nice composition. The triangle of plants, the 2 trees in the background, the cactus in front, and then there's a bit of a V shape in the clouds as well. I've slightly recomposed now. I'll just take the same sequence of shots. This, as I say this, the sun actually breaks through, so the light is changing very rapidly. I'll do a -1 and a -2. Even though I take these exposure compensated shots, it doesn't mean I'll actually use them in the final image. I would quite often take them just as insurance, because there's nothing worse than looking at the image on this computer and then saying, oh, I wish I over or underexposed just one more stop, then I could have captured this detail, or I wouldn't have lost that detail. So rather take an extra image. This is digital after all, it doesn't cost anything, and not be sorry afterwards. Here we have the raw file out of the camera. As you can see, I ended up only using one exposure. I decided not to combine the different exposures. There's enough detail in the foreground in this image to be usable. As you'll see in the process version, what I've done is I've obviously lifted the foreground quite a bit, and I pulled back the highlights a bit on the sky. I am not as impressed with this image as I originally was. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough separation between the larger tree on the left and the cactus in front. The cactus is overlapping the tree a bit, and I didn't realize that because it was relatively dark when I took the shot. The rest of the image works quite well. A bit of clutter on the right hand side. I like the little lonely tree on the right hand side as well. But I think the next time I shoot this, I will try and move slightly towards the left, more to the left, to try and get a bit of separation, at least that the cactus doesn't overlap the tree in front of it. Overall, I'm quite happy with the image, but it can definitely be better. I I will mark this one as a please redo. Well, that was quite an interesting morning. Came out expecting a spectacular sunrise, and then it was a bit disappointing, and as I was about to give up on taking photos and just scout, the colors suddenly changed, the clouds changed, and I think I managed to capture one or two images, specifically the last image with a triangle, the two different trees and the cactus in front with some clouds, the V-shape. I actually quite like that one. So I'm hoping that when it gets the final approval on the computer, it is as good as I imagined, or I'm hoping that there's no technical problems in it, though I doubt it. Well, that was quite a surprising morning. Came out here expecting a spectacular sunrise. Turned out that the light wasn't good, or not as good as I imagined. Took a few images, and then I decided I'll just scout a bit. And as I started scouting, I noticed that the light changed again. A cloud moved in front of the sun, and some more clouds formed above me. So at one of the new locations that I found, one of the new compositions that I found, I started taking photos again. Fortunately, I brought the camera with and didn't leave it with the backpack. I think the first one of the images I captured there was quite nice, the rocky outcrop with a twisted tree behind it. But I think the one I like even more is the one I found, the last one I found, with the two trees and the cactus in front forming like a triangle, and then a slight V in the clouds above it as well. And the clouds had a nice color at that point. So I think that image is really special. I'll be working on it on the computer later today. I'm hoping it is as good as I can see in my mind's eye. Anyway, thanks for joining me again today. You never know what you're going to get, but I appreciate you sticking around and listening to my story and watching me struggle to capture a good image. But if you like it, like what you see, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. If you want to see more of my videos, and I have a few more coming in this area, plus I have another one that is in production at the moment of the mountains, please consider subscribing to my channel. That helps, and then you'll get a notice whenever there's a new video up. Thanks for joining me, appreciate it. Have a great day, and see you in the next video.